Ivan, really nice having you at the common space. Yeah. Maybe we start with some background of you. I understand you actually studied mass comm at Republic Poly. So what made you make this shift from mass comm to fine art practice?
So actually, I am a accidental artist. So actually, how I came about was actually the process was very organic. I actually wanted to study fashion, and I chose a variation. Yeah, but ended up when I was applying, there was a technical glitch in the computer. So and that's how I ended up in fine arts, studying fine arts. Yeah, and sort of also propelled into me having a practice and going into it. Yeah. So that's how it came about.
So it's a happy incident?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it is lah. Yeah. So I think, but interestingly, I did photography even way before I did mass comm. So I applied my portfolio like spanned from my mass comm days. Yeah.
So when did you start with your photography?
Photography started in 2008. So I picked up a camera because I really like that depth of field. So you know how like people can be very sharp and then like the background is all blur. So I like that effect a lot. So I remember like I had to really spend some time to really like and I was very young back then. So I was like 14 and then I was like I need to get this thing, like this camera, right, to give me that kind of effect. Yeah. So that's how I got my first camera. And and then slowly like I shifted my my sort of my practice, or I shifted the way I took photographs, right? So cause last time it's always about going out with your friends and taking photo like every hour there is like a few snapshots. Yeah. And that's how I spend that was the utility of my camera. But I think like after being at home a lot, and I realized that my camera was my kind of like my only friend or companion at home. Yeah, because I'm also a single child. So I used that camera to photograph my surroundings.
So what is your first camera?
My first camera was a Canon 450D. Yeah. My first ever like DSLR. Yeah. That my parents like painstakingly got for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They like really, yeah. They didn't understand why I was so like crazy about it, but like, I was like, I want it. Yeah, spoiled child, but yeah.
How your practice of taking photos have been informed after you taking up fine art courses? Is there any shift, any changes from what you have been doing before that? Are you doing during the courses, after the course?
I think it's interesting because I think like photography for me was kind of like the way I communicate also. And I think the way I just like it that I'm able to go on a mission to go and take photos. Like, and I didn't really think much about it. So I think so that was before, right? Then I think when I entered fine arts, like I think I learned very small things. Like I think most importantly, I learned quite a lot about how to see. Yeah, and I think to communicate to people on how I can see things better. And I think like fine arts probably also like taught me how to kind of communicate and articulate like certain ideas that I have. Because I think like when I talk to people sometimes also, like I am not the best person in terms of articulation. Like when I say certain things, it always comes from my imagination. Yeah. Or like I see, but like people will look at me and be like they don't get this idea. Yeah. So I think like fine arts like made me kind of put things into a more like make me communicate better lah. Yeah, in terms of like my ideas or like how I see certain things. Yeah.
Can you share with us a bit more about your solo 2-week Wonderland? I remember first I saw this piece of work last year, probably at almost the same time, close to the end of November, I think, when you were working on this body of work and really intrigued by the subject matter and the mood of you are trying to catch. Maybe you want to tell us a bit more about the documentation, about your experience about this piece of work.
Yeah, so 2 Week Wonderland actually was something that I also chanced upon. So I think like the context before 2 Week Wonderland was actually I was mostly taking photos of my home and my vicinity. Like I treated my block as a studio space and I photographed everything around it. Yeah, but I think 2 Week Wonderland was also an attempt for me to get out of my house, to really photograph something completely new and completely foreign in a way lah. Yeah, so I think I chanced upon a wonderland, kind of this mobile wonderland at near my house. So there was this grassland, and then like they built this wonderland from scratch. Like really, it's a plot of land, and then suddenly the next day you come back, it's done, it's there already. So I think that was like very fascinating to me, like this like pop-up situation. But I think, and so when I started my process on following them and photographing them, the work actually, so 2 Week Wonderland actually situates at their second stop, which was at Tampines. So the first time I saw it was at Pasir Ris, and then I followed them till Tampines. And so they were at a field that was in between like 3 shopping malls. Yeah. So photographing 2 Week Wonderland, I think really made me think about my journey as kind of like an artist, and also kind of like remembering like what I learned in mass communication. So in mass communication, like simply like you have to really report the truth lah. You know, it's really truthful documentation. Yeah, but I felt like this work was really, for me, like caught in the middle. Like I was documenting something real, like something that was really in front of me. But at the same time, I think I was documenting something that gave a very like fantasized feeling. Yeah. Because like amusement parks always have that kind of fun, that kind of pleasure, that kind of like thrill and adrenaline. Yeah. So I think like I was really like, so this work is very special to me because it's like my excursion out of my home, and also like learning to see it as, oh, actually I'm photographing something real, but the feeling is very different. Yeah.
So why do you call it 2 weeks?
Oh, because I was at Tampines for 2 weeks. so
stand by.
Yeah, so I stand by for 2 weeks. Like after school, or if like my day is free, I would just go down. So actually, it was 2 weeks. Why I named it 2 weeks was because I was really there for 2 weeks. Like I camped there for 2 weeks. Like in the sense, every day I go there. I make a point to head to the location. But actually, I photographed before the event started. So the whole period was actually late September to early November. Yeah. So I was there while they were setting up, and while they were doing it, and while they closed. So all the way from an empty patch of land to an empty patch of land again. Yeah. So I think like it was interesting because like there was, I will never forget, like I photographed, I remember I was coming home and I had my camera and I decided to photograph, I was at home, I think. Yeah, I was at home, sorry. I was at home. Then I wanted to photograph at night, because at night where it was like bustling, it was full of people. Like people were coming in lah. And it started to rain. Yeah. So you see how everyone left, and then you're the only one there like with a rain. Like I was in a literally like a plastic raincoat, and then I ran in the rain, right? And then I shot like a lot, and I had so much fun. Like it was the best thing I've ever done. Like, yeah, like I like don't regret, like
you enjoy disappointment? Yeah.
Yeah, like
You know, so nobody can take the ride.
Yeah. I enjoyed the fact that people had to evacuate because of the weather. And I feel like weather is a very essential thing for amusement parks because it brings the business in, right? Like weather is one of the main components, yeah. So I think to photograph the Wonderland in a very disappointing state was something that was worth documenting also. Because it represents that whole time as well, right? You know, there's high and there's a low. Yeah, and I felt like I wanted to document everything lah. Yeah, and so that particular day where there was a heavy downpour and a thunderstorm, I decided, okay lah, just go out and shoot. Yeah, so everyone was like wondering, like, because there was a pasar malam also, like a night market. Yeah, so like I had to like swerve in and out. Then people were looking at me like, what are you doing? Yeah.
So you say you camped there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried? So you document, you know, the public having rights. Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried it or get on one ride?
I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I think I was in the mood of taking photos lah. Yeah, rather than like I was happy. I was more interested in seeing how people react to rides than than me wanting to go on the ride. Yeah, I don't know, I was very focused on like, okay, I just want to shoot this and I just want to see how people react to different lights, different rides. Yeah. So like I preferred to see that, yeah, than anything else lah. Yeah. And also I was scared because like some of the rides quite yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But another question I have is why this particular fun fair? So this kind of fun fair is compared with Universal Studios.
Yeah.
It's a kind of old-fashioned,
Yeah.
more nostalgic, than,
Yeah.
you know, more exciting
Yeah.
and more furbished
Yeah.
amusement park like
Yeah.
Universal Studio. So in Singapore we had Gay World,
Yeah.
Reward before.
Yeah.
So why this particular kind of amusement park?
Actually, so it started, I think where I was photographing the things, because I talked to my parents. So I think my parents brought up Gay World. Yeah, like it used to be at Kallang and like it was such an in thing. Every kid would want to go there. They pay 50 cents or they'll sneak in. You know, there were theaters also. So like I mean, I was born in the 90s, but I always felt like I wanted to live in the 80s. Like just to have a taste of what it's like to be in that position where you can go to Gay World and enjoy. So I think that experience or hearing that story like wanted me to also experience the same thing. And also I grew up in the 90s. Like I was born in the 90s. And I think early 2000s, my most fond memories of theme parks was actually Escape Theme Park. Yeah, which was at Downtown East. And I remember like, when I always go there, I have to buy Orange Julius. So it's like this drink lah that like they mix milk with orange. And it's like really very nice. Yeah. So I remember like I always I set a lot of the rides. So I think I wanted to so shooting 2 Week Wonderland was kind of like a reboot of my memories, and also like seeing my parents like being able to talk to my parents about it also. Like it rebooted their own memories about it. And I think the fascinating thing about 2 Week Wonderland or these kind of Wonderlands is that as compared to Universal Studios is that the old and the young, like that's where they converge, right? Because the old they share memories with the young, and then these like very young kids they get to experience, even though they might not know, but they get to experience what their parents used to experience. Yeah. So I think these kind of Wonderlands are very special in that way. Yeah, because it's really met in the middle. Like you ask your parents to go USS, it's like Universal Studios is like, it's very foreign for them. Yeah. Yeah. So I think like 2 Week Wonderland or this kind of like mobile amusement parks really hit in the middle. So I think Wonderland for me represents a lot of feelings. Yeah, that I think like that when I chose to photograph this subject matter, it gives a lot of people very different reactions. So I think like for this show in particular, I think like I hope to expect a lot of different reactions. And I think that includes disappointment also. Because I think like a lot of times we like to go for the rides for the adrenaline and the thrill of it. Yeah, but I think like it was also important like for me, I guess, like that because it's very real to me also, that I don't also enjoy the highs, but I also know the low. Yeah, and so for me, like 2-week Wonderland encompasses that dichotomy and that journey lah. Yeah. So I think Wonderland for me like meant like that journey of bringing you or taking you on that progressive journey of feeling that high and that low.
So your Wonderland also touch on the temporality, also about the disappointment, about the weather, and also about the locality. I found the locality is particularly interesting because you mentioned about that it's a state land, it's a piece of bare land, and suddenly it tends to be a wonderful place where you can have temporary pleasure. Then eventually, after 2 weeks, everything disappeared. Is there anything you wanted to say through such a temporary, to capture such a temporal pleasure?
I mean, I feel temporality. I think when I was thinking about the projects and I think like talking to you about it more offline, I think like I thought a lot about what comes with temporality, and I think a lot of it comes from this idea of waiting. Yeah, I think a lot of times in life, like you wait for a lot of things. You wait for the bus, you wait for a text, you wait for your results. You wait for a lot of things. So I think, but in this case, I think the waiting is sometimes very and I think the element or this habit of waiting can involve a lot of like different feelings. And so I think like and also and I think it's also like and I think also talking about, and I think moving on to locality, I think it's a lot. I feel like this Wonderland is such a interruption to my everyday life. Yeah, because it just appears out of the blue, right? Then you're like, okay, what is this? Like, to some people, it's like, oh, there's something to look forward to. There is that spark. Yeah. And then like, once you've ridden all the rides, you're like, okay lah, like life goes back to square one, or like, oh, tomorrow I got to go back to school, or I got to go back to work. Yeah. So I think like, I enjoy that it is such an interruption in our everyday life. Yeah. So I think this temporality is a double-edged sword lah. Yeah. And I think also like and I think a lot of times we also wait for these kind of things, right? Like we might not know the schedule of how they move, but you wait. Some kids or even some parents, like they wait for these kind of things. Like I remember me and my friends, we had a conversation about like, oh, like every month, like the night market will come alive. Then we will buy our favorite honey chicken and like Thai food and and like Ramly burger. Yeah. So these are very interesting moments lah. Yeah. It's temporary and it's really like worth the wait. Yeah. And we think about it. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the work that included in this installation?
So the work actually comprises of a light box and kind of like a work on the wall, right? Like a sticker on the wall. So I think why would it be a light box and a sticker? I think a lot of times like I think I wanted to recreate like the different habits or the different way of constructing a wonderland, because that's how when I was there they actually did that, right? There are like different light boxes. It's like it's all man-made and constructed up. Yeah, and so similarly like over here, I think the process of how they did it in Wonderlands, I wanted to kind of replicate the same manner. Yeah. So I think like so over at this exhibition, I think it's really about seeing the work as really like a substitute, a very, very small substitute of what a wonderland can be lah. Yeah, and I think so the light box kind of acts as a signage, or like even like it kind of acts as a signage, or even kind of like a attractive point, right? But when you enter the space, it's completely different. It's another feeling altogether. Yeah, but you see that both images have a common understanding to it lah. Yeah, a common understanding in a way that they are both in the same ride, but I think portrayed in a very different manner. Yeah. And so this is what the exhibition is all about. Yeah.
Before you expand your exploration sites, you were actually very much focused the block 555 where you stay.
Yeah, where I stay.
Yeah, this also the first work I actually saw. So you document the display of the corridors of your labors within that block. Can you share us a bit more about this piece of work? How this work eventually informed your work to with Wonderland?
I think Block 555 is really kind of like this idea where I go around and I just take whatever I like, like take photos of whatever I like lah. Yeah, and I think Block 555 eventually evolved into looking at my neighbors in a very different manner, and so different in a way I would say that like because of the things that they exhibit outside their homes, right? You can kind of sort of tell like who your neighbors are and like what your neighbors have. Like, oh, if there's a bed, if like there's a small bed, probably there's a pet. Yeah. Or if like there's more like there's more like like if there's more things, then it's like probably there's more for a family of like 5 or like 4 people. Yeah. So I think like it was quite interesting for me to wander around like the block. Yeah. And to really like take different corners of the block and to really have that experience lah. Yeah. So Block 555 is actually a project that I have been taking, or rather it's the very first thing that I took besides my friends, right? As we mentioned before. And I think it was really about looking at how objects float outside of the house, like outside of your corridor, right? And you can see like how different people exhibit or put out different things for people to see. It can be a garden, it can be clothes, it can be bicycles, yeah. But the interesting thing about it is that they really treat it as their own like space, and they really make it their own space. So you would see like the entire corridor, right? Like it's really all just plants. Wow, then it's like you know that like that owner of that space is like, wow, I'm so proud to be a gardener or something like that. Yeah. Like, or gardening give them some sort of like peace and comfort or something like that lah. Yeah. So I think, Block 555 has evolved from just me taking photos of things that I like to see, or rather taking objects from different, in a way, taking objects from different angles and how they are stationed into much more than that. Into for me to suddenly like, I some sort of know like my neighbor has these kind of things. Yeah. So I think that's how it started. And so, moving to 2 Week Wonderland, I felt like, I think I was caught a lot in the loop where I think like people were telling me that like, oh, when are you, like people made a joke, like people often joke to me and say like, hey, when are you gonna get out of your house? Like, you're gonna take photos of your house forever, is it? Then I just like, okay, like take a chill pill, but like, let me like slowly do it lah. So actually 2 Week Wonderland was kind of like, okay lah, I will get out of my house and around, get out of my surroundings to find something, to capture. Yeah. So that's how, 2 Week Wonderland started actually.
But I can see the similarity, interest similarity in regards to locality, right? So Block 555 is really, you set your research field within this block where you live there, you know your neighbor, you go to every floor, just like you have exercises every day, right? And then the state land is another site. Actually, you plot it, you treat it as your research sites to discover what you can generate, the emotions, interpretations from such a locality, such a location. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like 2 Week Wonderland really moved, really came along. I think because also I really had a strong liking for like taking installative like stuff, right? So it's always about like, from Block 555, the strain of like seeing how people like decorate their own homes, and then you put that into like another new space where you suddenly see like there's so many lights, or like there's different rides and they're placed in a different way lah. Yeah, I think so. That's why I think like Wonderlands really caught my attention. Yeah. Yeah, so I think it was quite interesting also lah, like, cause like, yeah, I think cause maybe in Singapore, we would like to imagine that there is a permanence in something, like, or in a certain site, right? But actually the truth is, sometimes it really can just demolish, and there's something that needs to be added on, or there's some improvements that need to be made, right? They always say there's an improvement that we want to make, and like, let's change the color of your block, you know? So recently, like my house, like all the opposite blocks are going through like a color change, and the color change is not very nice. Like, I miss the old colors. So like, you know, it's this kind of things that you know, it's like, yeah, so it's like, 2 Week Wonderland really served that reminder for me lah. Like, you think that it's gonna stay there, but actually it's not. Yeah. Then, like, you know, the moment you look again, like, oh, it's something very decorative. Then the moment you look again, it's like, oh, it's just another patch of grassland. Yeah. So I feel like, and this effort is very interesting though, because like they're all placed in, I think this company or this mobile amusements, they like to put in heartlands, like, right? We like to call, like, Singapore is divided into heartlands. They call it heartlands, like, where there is a community of people like going together, like together at like a communal place. So I think like they are making, like, this Wonderland is sort of like a strategy to make people gather and to see what and to see and to let cohesion happen, no? Yeah. But the interesting thing is that it really does not last. Yeah.
What are you working on now?
So I'm gonna turn 2-week Wonderland into a book because I have like compiled quite a bit of images for this experience. So I think I want to capture that experience and that feeling into a book lah, so that you can flip through and hopefully see like a journey on maybe how I captured this amusement park, like mobile amusement park. Yeah. So yeah, that is something I'm working on.
Great. Looking forward to flipping through the Wonderlands page by page. Yeah. Thank you.